our ultimate 2025 Springbok team, every Sunday with André Pretorius.
Okay, how's it, everyone? We went through the categories of what makes a great eight, a number 8 in the box setup, this particular setup. We went through how you have to play in the carry tackle zone. We talked about how you see the game, how you make your passes, how you make presentment, and how you have to be a tough bugger and stay on the field for 80. Andre, I'm looking forward to looking now at some more examples of these players and what they do to earn these marks. How you feeling?
I'm looking forward to it, Harry. I want to get a bit of a deep dive going into what makes these gentlemen so good, and then also we'll have a look at what they can do better. It's amazing to think how the level that they play at, and then how their small improvements can have such a big can make such a big difference in the game.
Yeah, it's a good point. Once Peter Steph Toy retires, may he never retire, but if he does, down one day, whoever's the next one is going to be compared forever to that guy. Number 8's similar in that Duane Vermeulen was one of those all-purpose, we talked in the first show about being a bear with a map. I mean, I just think of Duane. He's a guy who probably would not get lost in the wilderness. He could lead you out of the bush, and just tough. You wouldn't want to mess with him. And so, All Blacks have been still looking for their successor to certain positions as well, and they get compared. So I think in Buckland, the idea of who is it that will take this, who will lead the back of the scrum, be at the back of our lineouts in 2027 in Australia for the back-to-back-to-back defense, then it's interesting to look at, is it the guy that's in there right now? Is it someone that's in the wings? Or is it someone that we're not even really talking about that much? So let's just dive in and talk about the guy the Kalahari pain train, Jasper, who is currently carrying that huge carry load, getting his 100 carries and his 100 tackles in. And so let's just talk about what he does and what he looks like when he's operating. First thing will be in the carries and the tackle zone.
First one, Jasper carrying. Now, what I want to point out here is just have a look at his body position when he goes into contact. He really tries to get hip height, especially against, obviously that's a lock in front of him. And he does this really well, tremendously well. Dips, isolates one player, doesn't go into that double hit, gets into the heart of that, waits for the support, and he keeps that ball. Now, as we go along, you'll see why that becomes so important when we look at the rest of the players and how they carry ball. On the next one, again, a little show of the ball, gets off, but have a look at how he protects the ball, kind of ripping it away from the 6 in terms of not giving him an opportunity to wrap. He knows he's exposing that ball, but the first tackler was on his left-hand side. Gets to ground, and what we want to have a look at here is it's a bit of ground skill work that I think a lot of these boys have got to look at. So because they carry so well, Harry, they get isolated often, and support runner is far away. You got a jackler quite close to it. They've got to get to the point where they're changing the picture of the jackler. They need to push that ball back. Just the old jackknife recoil is not good enough anymore for these jacklers. They get onto the ball too quickly. Their visual is too good. Their technique is tremendous. And your support runners are always going to be late. And in this instance, you can see that he has an opportunity there to get up off his hips, push the ball back, lift his upper body, change that picture, and the jackler will probably fall over him and lose his feet. Instead, he gives an opportunity to get onto that ball. I don't know if you've got anything on that, Harry.
Yeah, the dynamism in that sort of the magic 3 seconds, that golden 3 seconds. Be ever shifting, be a hard target, elbows. There's definitely now, because so many people now go over the ball, because when you're playing a proper team, one of the top teams, there's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that are skilled at getting over. your job is not done. So I do think that's true. Jasper is actually really good at, by the way, shifting, like you're saying, about subtle, almost shrugs into contact, where he could just go down normal or power, but he's not as blunt as people say. He actually is really good at finding that little part of you that you're the weakest on. So he's driving at your hands when they're by your hips. I think adding to ground game is probably where he would get full marks. I mean, if he could just, there's not many people who carry better than Jasper Wiese. It's going to be about the what happens next. How good you are at avoiding the snaffle, and how sure you are to repeat and build momentum in the carry.
Without a doubt. And I think, like you said, that ground skill work, just adding to the way that he carries ball, this is not the best position to be in. I think a lot of players would have gotten ripped here, but the way he protects that ball, look how he gets the hands up. He took the ball away from him, but that ground skill there, I think, can improve. And he's not bad with it, but I think it's a focus thing. And just to assume that you have ruckers on your back, that's probably where the problem lies.
It's also, I think, also because he's maxing out on every single carry, and you could never tell a player not to max out, right? Like, don't carry as well. He wants to eke out every final inch. But what you're saying is exactly right. Don't give me that final lunge if it's going to put you in danger. I'd prefer that you have a seamless quick ruck. Give me the quick ruck every time.
So on the next one, carrying off the left of the scrum again. He's not giving them any opportunity to get to that ball. Closes that up. It's one. There's the double shoulder. It's not a double shoulder together, which makes a difference, as we'll see later. And fighting for that ball, and the ball's out. Just that power that he gets off with, and the fight is tremendous. Kick return, small space. Now, he shows them he's going into the double. They get planted, and then he just moves into this little space here. And there, that double shoulder is not simultaneous again, which gets him in behind. Now, what I would like to see there, I'd like to see Jasper start looking around to get rid of that ball. Because in this situation, Jasper's just thinking of getting past that tackle. And if you start looking around, it's funny, but it's true. If you start looking around, you activate players around you. He's looking for someone to pass to. And that's when you can run off him. If I play with these gents, you would have ran off their shoulders so many times just because they're always getting to this position here. And you can avoid this ruck.
Yeah.
Quick ball, play off that. Kickoff return, first tackle. And again, it just keeps going. He just keeps going. What did you call him? The Kalahari?
Pain train. He's the Kalahari pain train.
Part of this, Harry, is also seeing the field. Where's the next space? There it is. Getting to that. Get the fend. Chasing. Not accepting that tackle. Waiting for him to get around there. And now, if we can just get that ball into the hands of the next attacker, that'll ask a lot of questions of many defenses.
That's a great clip. You get to see in the pregame, in the Bokland now, a lot of them have their specially designed, tailor-made exercises. And Jasper's one is literally, I forget which assistant coach is behind him with the elastic, and he just drags him across the field. I mean, Jasper's just running with the coach behind him, trying to stop him with that little break. And that's what he works on. And it makes me think that in those contact situations, like you just showed, he actually knew he had enough. Like, he wasn't just thinking, I hope I can break this tackle. He knew that his position was so superior that those RGs were just going to he's just going to take them on a ride.
Now, if we look at the tackle, I said to you earlier, Jasper's an 8 that he kind of defends like a 6 for me. And what I mean by that is he gets a lot more shoulder on than chest on. He focuses on getting that chest on even from the side. You'll see in this clip. So a lot of players in this position would try and catch that Jasper. A lot of players in this position would try and catch him, put him down, and then jackal from there. But what Jasper does is he focuses on getting that shoulder in. And that's a great sign for any defense coach when you get guys leaning forward, getting up onto their toes and punching into tackles the way that he does. And it just changes the whole picture for the attack on the attacking breakdown. Next one again, rushes out of line. It's a bad visual for us. You can't really see, but he rushes off the line, gets line speed, great jump, and then stays body in front. That's the other thing that he does really well. After the hit, his body stays in front, and it's kind of like you're defending a maul. You don't want that water spilling out the bowl. He keeps them in front, and he makes sure that, and he ensures that he's got a power finish on them. So gets off the line, and he just doesn't get back to his feet to have an involvement afterwards. But I think that initial hit, the speed of the line, and that puts attack under pressure. Again, getting off the line, and that's what he does well, Harry. Look at the forward lean and then punching, even though the ball carrier has dropped his height. Now, Jasper is probably about 3 or 4 centimeters shorter than the rest of our players that we'll discuss. But the way he gets under and that forward lean gives you those pillars at the back on the head, which means you can absorb the pressure and get this final result. And he doesn't stop. After the hit, he doesn't stop. He finishes and gets that power finish. And then just a little work rate clip of Jasper, makes a chasing tackle, gets up, makes the hit after the ball's been passed. But the way he gets up after this tackle, it just comes back to that Springbok battle rate and what they deem as important. He's an absolute workhorse.
Yeah, and he's 100% max guy. So those are explosive clips, but you could have grabbed 100 clips at random and you would have seen the same level of commitment for sure.
Now, part of the defense is the jackling, and he's no mug when it comes to that. Great position, gets onto the ball immediately. He fights for the ball, and that's the other thing I like of Jasper. He's not trying to buy penalties. He'll take it, but he wants the ball. Because once he gets the ball, that's what he can do. And there's that little movement on the ground we'd like to see. As he falls down, you see a lot more of his number there. And that small little change of direction for the ball just makes it difficult for the jackler to get into. Now, the attack side of things. Obviously, it's a bit set a bit wider here. He wants to run off Wiese. He can throw the tip. He's not one-dimensional. He can use his feet, but he can throw the tip and play that little tip pass and then still stay alive to be part of that attacking breakdown. And then on receiving ball on the engagement line, this is not an easy thing to do. It means you've got to finish your catch, and it shows that disregard for his body, Harry. Like, this ball is more important than these two Argentinians in front of me. I'm going to ensure that I hold on to this. John de Villiers used to be brilliant with this. He ran into the hole first, and then he took the ball after that. Not that this is that, but it's a skill to catch that ball, man and ball, and then get advantage line after that as well.
Well, it's incredible focus. You know, he does a one thing before he does the other thing. And it's a hallmark of his game is that he is incredibly focused. I think he would be the first one to say that's why he had to add some skills, because he was so focused on the first things that he hadn't done the next things. But you just showed some things he added. For example, he didn't come in as a snaffler or jackler. He's now definitely a certified jackler. He can get over the ball anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. And then this last clip, Harry, I think if I was the Edinburgh defense coach, I would have no hair left. You know,
I love this one.
You've just stolen the ball, and then the South African gives him the ball and says, "Okay, we're going to tackle you." No, we're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's a fantastic finish.
Yeah. And first of all, it's long hair Jasper, which is a cool version of him. Second part is these are not mugs he's running over. These are guys like James Ritchie. These are, you know, proper test internationals that he's just mowing over like a lawnmower.
But how good is it to be able to give everything in that contact? He's at a 45-degree lean angle, uses Ritchie to keep him up, brushes off the next one, give him the hip, and score that try.
Like a winger. Like he finishes like a wing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
No, there's the thing that leaps out to me. Great clips, Andre, but the body position throughout. I wouldn't even tweak anything. Like I would just say keep that body position. Now we're going to work on what you said, looking for the offload. You know, when you're presenting, do it like a bench press, like a really dynamic move. Don't go slow. But the body position, which is the hardest thing to teach any young man in contact, because it hurts and because we like to wince before we hit. He doesn't do any of that. He gets his position, and that's why he's a train, because he doesn't care what's on those tracks. It's him going through you.
Yeah.
Or he's the, what you would say, the leader of the sort of contact area. I think, you know, where sometimes I wonder, and we have some young contenders who might be better than him, is evasion, just the ability to take one or two steps. That's not knocking Jasper, because, you know, we have him at a 38 out of 40 on the carry tackle, which is, you know, going to be up there. But what would get him to 39 would be that extra step, the ability to carve and find a weak shoulder or a seam, and then that tip through contact as well.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not to knock him, and I'd rather play with Wiese than against him for sure. But to go to that next level, and that's what we alluded to in the beginning of this series, is the fact that those small changes could get you to that next level, because you're carrying 12, 15, 17 times. You don't want to expose the ball. You don't want to give them an opportunity on the ground. You want to avoid rucks as many times as possible. If you can get offloads away, you put defenses under pressure. And it's something that I think he's gone from where he was to where he is now. I think there's still a lot to come for Jasper Wiese.
Yeah, so I think the question around Wiese is, does he keep the jersey from now to 2027 in the next World Cup? And with the carry ability, the ability to carry in traffic, but with this deficiency in what we call ball skills, ball awareness, and seeing the field. But for sure, he's a 10 out of 10 on durability, going 80. The guy is just a machine. I think that would be the interesting plot twist, because a lot of people are talking about our two young guns, Evan Roos, Cameron Hanekom, and it's impossible not to. Yeah. But what would be very interesting and so South African and Bach would be for Wiese to hold on to it anyway and say, no, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get whatever you need me to get. And, you know, he ends up being the guy that learns the offload, or he's the one who finds the space. So the way we have it tallied out, I think, with a 38, 25 out of 30 for boys ball skills, 17 out of 20 for seeing the field, and then 10 out of 10 for being durable. I mean, that's the leading score. That's still the incumbent. And why wouldn't it be? He's played enough tests. He's seen enough things now, and he's a guy you trust, you know. If you're picking a team tomorrow to go into the World Cup final tomorrow, imaginarily, and he's fit. I trust him. I trust him because the last time we saw that, he was able to seal the deal. So let's go on to the next guys who are chasing and seeing if they can take the jersey. First one is, that combative, fiery guy from Western Province who divides opinion sometimes with personality. He's aggressive, there used to be a time when he would tackle a guy and then shove his face into the ground for no apparent reason and get carded. He's taken that out of his game. He's gone back to school and worked really hard on the ruck work. But, there's no one who carries better, I think, just carry a ball into traffic or carry a ball around than Evan Roos. What do you have for us to look at with the young firebrand?
Just like we started with Wiese, just to show that he can play with the ball. He's not a one-dimensional player. Ball in two hands. I'd like to see this a bit longer in certain instances when he's carrying, just so that he avoids those double shoulders, which is probably going to make him more durable going forward, running onto single hits or weak shoulders instead of focusing and showing his intent so early. So a little inside ball, doesn't get stuck, still gets to that ruck, tackles the tackler, and the ball's available. So there is that dimension to his game. He can play within the structure when it comes to that. Next one, this is the one I'm talking about. Kick receive, ball back. Now, one small little step to the inside, moving outside, he gets into this little seam here. Now, call it the exuberance of youth, call it whatever you want. It's, he believes that he's going to be running over these two. And that's great. I think you should have that. But your body's only going to last so long, and you need to be clear. You need to be clever. And that's what I think Duane Vermeulen did fantastically well. And he gets into this carry. Now, the other thing that I see in this carry is that his feet get stuck under him, which means there's no pillar at the back that he can absorb that double hit and then start spinning either side if he wants to. He gets dragged back immediately because that's what we spoke about. It's a simultaneous hit. It's not a 1-2 where he can move into space. He's moving into a simultaneous double hit, and that's why this one is so difficult to get into, and then he gets into trouble. If he got that spin a bit earlier, he's got an opportunity to play there. On this one, this is where he's very dangerous. Running into the edges, getting in between players. Now again, I want him to start looking around earlier and activating players around him to look for that offload and to be able to get that offload away. I think there's a lot of, especially this team, you've spoken about that before, the way that they go about the offload, sometimes to their own detriment. I want to see that from Evan and also from players around him. He gets into these situations more often than not. They've got to use it. They've got to use it. I don't know what you think about that, Harry.
Yeah, he does create. So the first step is there. The hardest thing to do is there. Now he has to capitalize on it. And you see there, I guess that's Sasha lurking. You've got good ball skills guys coming. You don't have to do the perfect one. You just have to do a soft up and he'll run into it. I like the little eyeballs there. And I think when you're a young player, everything is coming at you quickly. I think by now what I see with Evan is he is seeing things better and more calmly. And lately, it feels like he is looking for that. Exactly right. If he's going to take the jersey and defeat the challenge of Cam, it's going to be around these issues, soft skills, more than the hard skills, because he's got plenty of strength. On that earlier clip, it just struck me how that's where Wiese still has the superiority is on body shape, just getting into contact with the perfect shape. And Evan's just got to learn how that when he gets into that perfect shape, even the offload is going to be easier because he's going to be able to have a stable base from which to throw.
Yeah. And offloaders, if you look at offloading players, usually get a bit high in contact because they want to be in a position to offload after that.
Yep.
But you need to be able to go through that. So he's identified this early. He knew he was going to go through that space. He wasn't going to take away the the fact that he could maybe stay. His tackle fight's amazing. They get onto the legs. And then the next thing we want to have a look at, Harry, is that on the ground, get yourself out of those positions. Don't give them a look at that. And I know this tackler was probably not giving him an opportunity. You see his right hand going onto Evan there, just holding him onto the ground. But I want to see them with that ground skill, lifting their shoulders off the ground and pushing that ball away, giving the jackler no chance to get to that. They get the ball back, but obviously the attack has been disrupted. Around the front, Evan again. Now, there's not a lot of chance to get rid of this ball, but he tends to bump with the ball in the hand closest to the defender. It might give him a feeling of power. What I spoke about earlier, if you're going to have 15, 17 runs and you're going to expose the ball like this in most of them, defenders are becoming very clever. Even small defenders are becoming very clever. Defense coaches are very clever. They'll pick this up and they'll go, listen, 17 carries. If we get 3 rips from him, that's three opportunities gone for them, and we take the opportunity. So just a bit more clinical on that would be good. But look at the power. Look at where he gets them to in that small space, one defender, and he keeps fighting. Another footwork clip from Roos. Early set. So small space. You get one guy shooting up, inside defense holding back, and he gets that little step off the left, step off the right, and he gets into that seam. Now what this does is, over the advantage line, space open, ball available. And on the next one, the overfold and ball available space on the inside. And it's all due to that little footwork and stepping into that space there. So he can run into people, but he's also got the ability to find the space with his feet. And then the last one on this carry category, just this is what for me epitomizes his tackle fight. Runs into the tackle, you think that's done, knee nearly on the ground, keeps himself up, and then just keeps going. It's just, I mean, that's a good latch, but still, anywhere in the world, that's probably a tackle. He'll go down, he'll accept it, try and keep the ball, and it looks a lot different for your attack. Stays up and just keeps going. It's such a big focus for him to stay on his feet. Right, onto the defense. Now, I think if we had to compare him and Wiese, this is probably where he's just a bit behind. I find sometimes he gets into, that's an early read. He can commit to this tackle very early, but yet he goes, he catches, he gets side on, but then it's a bit, gets into this position sometimes. And what he then does is he drags players back to their own goal line. And Roos does this very well. And this is probably the way that he prefers to tackle. He wants to be chesty. He wants to get his upper body involved, keep them up, or get into the choke tackle. Again, that's an early read. That tackle's been made. That's an early read. Get yourself involved there. But he chooses to get into that choke position and fight from there. So that could be his way of disrupting and slowing down ball. I don't know what you've seen from his tackling, Harry.
Yeah, the deficiency right now in Evan's game on defense is that he keeps waiting for the big moments instead of just doing all the moments and then it'll sort itself out. So he does have a little bit of a kingmaker thing, like I'm coming in for this big one. When he chooses wrong, he's so stubborn. Just like when the carry, he doesn't give up. So I think it's that's decision making. It's what is it? It's recognition of what it is that he's coming into and what it's not. Again, I would say 2025, it's a lot better than it was 2024, 2023,
Yeah.
where he was more like hair on fire. So, I think just knowing when he's coming into a contact zone, what it is he wants to accomplish, and actually having that thought in his mind for 1 second is good.
And then when he's a second arrival in this situation, he can add his weight, and then he can really drive and put his body behind that. Now, I'd like to see this from him as a primary first tackler, getting that lean forward, like I showed with Wiese, getting his shoulder on. I think he can do it. He's physical enough. It's just a focus thing and a technique thing. And like I said, I think this is Evan's game. Getting players, holding them up, and forcing turnovers in this way. And then this is something that he does really well. I spoke about this clip earlier. See him get off the side, beats the first defense. That's terrible defense from that loose forward, moving so far forward. Evan realizes he's beaten him on the outside, but there's that little seam I was talking about. He's gone back, or he got the jump wrong. He's late, causes that little seam, and he goes into that space immediately, and he scores a try from there. And again, a lot of players in this situation, Harry, won't, even going backwards, his feet keep moving. He doesn't lose his feet. They stay alive, and that's what gets him over the line on this one.
That's his best attribute, is that the closer he gets to the line, he starts getting, I don't know, almost like superhuman strength. he has a way of escalating. That's got him in trouble before. It got him in card trouble, but it's a thing that's hard to find. I'm not even sure it's coachable. He just has a fire that turns on when he feels like he's in the zone, and right there he's in the zone.
And the important thing is, it's just this left foot of his. You'll see when guys that want to stay on their feet, they try and get them. It's kind of like is it the Navy SEALs, or there's one of those groups that say, can you see your next step? Just take that one. And in this situation, it feels like what I need to stay on my feet. The next thing I need to get this left foot under me. And that's what he does. There it goes. He just gets that under. That gives him another pillar to stay on top. And now, where's the next one? Too much weight, but now we're over the line, and he scores that. And his tackle fight is absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, it's like what you said with Jamie Ritchie. Jasper used Jamie Ritchie to stay alive in that sequence against Edinburgh. And I think that there's a similarity between Roos and Wiese, which is using bodies. He's comfortable in the contact zone enough to continue churning. I've seen Evan run backwards and gain meters just running backwards. So, he doesn't have a stop or off button. I would think that of the candidates we're talking about, it's almost like Wiese and Evan may be the most similar, in the sense that they are deceptively strong. They look strong, and yet they're stronger than that. They're just ridiculously strong. But I think there's a bluntness to their play that if both of them could go to the same set of schooling in rugby, they would both benefit from seeing the pitch better, and probably I think they're so used to winning contact from the early days of their life, that the next level, where everyone's big and everyone's strong, and you're not going to muscle over the French pack, necessarily, then I think that's the work on.
So what are we looking at ratings-wise, Harry?
So for me, all in, and this is because of the kind of carries, like you said, you're going to get a lot of carries as 8. So to me, the quality of the carry at 8, especially in the Tony Brown, Rassie Erasmus system, rewards the 8. The 8's going to get some 5 carries for free, like the kick return restart. If it's set up for that's yours, then it's going to be Evan. Give me those. I think those are going to be spectacular. So I rated him a 39 in the carry tackle zone. After seeing your clips and thinking about some of the other things, I'm thinking maybe I should have gone a little bit lower, but that's where it is right now. And then on ball skills, 28. I think it's higher than Wiese, and here's why: he never drops the ball. I mean, you can throw even just anything, junk, and he'll pick it up. Must be a cricketer or something. He catches it on the bounce. Seeing the pitch, seeing the field, 17. So out of 20, there's still quite a bit to me. That's a lot of work on. And that will be the thing that either makes it or doesn't. Durability, no question. The man he can just run into walls all day and seem to be okay with it. So that's a high score. I mean, he tops out. He actually, if we're talking about a ceiling, that's a 94. Are we there? No, because of errors. And I haven't really rated errors because I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to say, he inevitably will commit these errors. Wiese said, I was carded too much. I went to Leicester. I said to my coaches, teach me how to stay on the pitch. And he did it. I'm assuming Roos has done the same thing because this season's been very different. He's not in push and shove. He's not in getting involved in silly handbags. He's just playing the game. So, yeah, I think he's the intriguing successor to Duane Vermeulen in a way that I think sometimes that Wiese couldn't because of the ball skills.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think on the carry tackle, you hit the nail on the head, because the way he carries is he can sometimes make something out of nothing, just because he's got that ability to use his feet. He understands where his body needs to go. The way he manages the ball within the contact, he lets hands slip. He can get ball while he's being tackled. He can maneuver the ball over the hands, slipping off him, and he keeps moving forward. Where I think, as with Jasper, because he's carrying low, it's difficult for him to. You can't have both. You can't be focusing on hips and trying to stay up, but then you're probably going to give away the offload a bit less. So where Evan is looking for offloads, he's looking to keep the ball alive, but he's also looking to stay alive. He wants to stay up. So that balance I think is going to be important with his carries. Whereas sometimes it's going to get dark and you just have to look after the ball, and you have to have a plan B for that. And when you get into that situation we saw him in, that's when you stay upright, you bounce them off, and you look to get rid of the ball. And I think that's going to be key for him.
Yeah, exactly right. And also the thing you led off with in the last episode, which was back in the day, the 8 was the fixer. I think there's still an element of that. It doesn't happen as much. But if you're going to see a forward have to go back, it's going to be your 6 or your 8 having to track back or hooker sometimes, and get a rough, horrible ball that's bouncing around that no one else wants, and get down. And I thought Evan wasn't doing that. I thought he was like, nah, I don't get my hands dirty. I don't do that kind of stuff. This season, I see him doing that in a very difficult season for the Stormers, where a lot of players were out and he couldn't just look around and say, you do it. He said he will do it. So I think there's hope there. And in the personality issues, I'll say this. Give me a very highly aggressive guy who wants to win and is willing to accept discipline and, teaching. And I can refine him. I can polish him much more than give me a guy who does everything right. He's a proper kid. He's doing the good schoolboy stuff, and then say, I'm going to throw him into a gladiator contest. I prefer, that I can take a little edge off a Skalk Burger than throw someone, I'm not going to say a name, but throw someone in there that I'm having to say, fight more. So I think Roos gets a bit of a bad knock there, but I got to say, he seems like he's grown a bit.
I like the way you put that. Yeah, I prefer him in that arena. Yeah, and also as a coach, those are I don't want to call it projects, because it probably is not that, but it's someone who you got to take time to break the walls down, get him to trust you. So I don't want to drop you because you're getting yellow cards, but in training you're getting into unnecessary fights. What is that about? Who you got a problem with? Why is this a problem? Is it all about you, etc.? And I think once you've taken the time to take an interest into the player and on and off the field, once you get that gladiator or warrior, as you call him, believing in you, my friend, there's nothing that player will not do for you. And that's the exciting part with working with those types of players.
Yeah, exactly. So our next one is a brilliant player, someone you cannot take your eyes off. I call him this kind of guy where I went to captain's run for the Bulls in Munster, and even in the practice, you keep thinking, well, who's that athlete? He just looks like proper athlete. We're back into sort of Pierre Spies land when you look at a guy who's big and ripped and shredded and good-looking young kid. So it's the Cameron Hanekom. So what do you know about this guy?
Let's have a look. Don't be surprised if Envy rocks up now.
Fanboy, yeah.
Okay, Harry, we've got a couple of different clips. This was from the one test that Cameron played, and a little knock on there. Ref didn't pick that up. Good call. But always beating the first offender. Being it with a little contact or feet, he's got the ability to always beat the first offender, and he reads the lean well. So, and what I mean by that is, as an attacker, this guy's he's tackling at the moment. So at some point, he's got to go down if there's no resistance in front of him. And all Cameron needs to do is he just needs to stay away from that. Beats the first offender, immediately off the right foot into the space, gets rid of him, and he just keeps going. Right? Now there, again, we'll talk about the ground skill. This little jackal, or what do you call that? Jackknife recoil at this level, I think it's gonna cost you. Get your shoulder up, move the ball into this space here, but he does get blocked by this defender. We'll go further on this a bit later. And the next one, kick return. Now, Cameron is more a player that's looking for space. He's not going to look to run over people because he wants to offload the ball. Guys who want to offload the ball, try and look for space. He's identified this space early. Again, first defender missing, so there's not that simultaneous double hit. Very clever. And then probably didn't need it at this stage, but ball secured. Running in the trams, tackle fight. That's what you want to see. Runs a great little line, good tackle fight. And this is what I was speaking about earlier, Harry. For him to really get low and cover up the ball, get his head between or hip height, it's going to cost him, and he can't stay on his feet. But these types of players know what type of collision they're going to go into. So what he wants to be a bit more upright so that he can keep fighting on his feet and have that little tackle fight. Again, ball out to him, but he's also got the skill to do that. And this is what makes guys like Cameron Hanekom so dangerous. You commit to him. Augustus coming in knows he's got to sit down on this pod here. They can't leave him because he's such a threat. And then he's got the ability to throw that ball out the back, and they get to attack to the edge. Carry from Creel. Have a look at Hanekom comes into the picture a bit later. So he's supposed to be the next rucker. As he gets there, scans up, sees what's happening, calling the fold, not coming. And the key, yeah, Harry, it seems like he's just taken the ball up and there's nothing happening. Have a look at the amount of defenders he's kept in this zone. Guys on the outside that have needed to come in because they weren't sure if these tackles were going to be made. And as he throws that offload, you got no fold and you got two extra defenders part of that tackle. And that's where you get opportunities. That's their corner on the outside there. This is their corner. That's their last player. And that's due to Cameron getting them narrow, getting people to come in and not being sure that the tackle's going to get made.
Yeah, he's what I call an attractive nuisance in that he attracts so much attention on the field. that he's a proper nuisance to the other team, and it doesn't even show up on the stats.
This is probably one that John Goosen doesn't want to see. It's one he missed out on a certain try, but Cameron, again, he's got this ability. He will keep the ball alive, or try to, as long as possible. And then 2 clips that I think MV is going to enjoy thoroughly. Although they lost the game, this nearly put them back into it. But coming off the scrum, he needed to make something out of this because there were defenders. 1 step, and he finds the try line. Next one, also off a scrum. He's got a bit more work to do on this one. 1, 2, keeps working, and he finishes that. That's a difficult customer to tackle. So that's it on the attack. Anything from you, Harry?
Yeah, he's a big problem, and he's unique. I think when I look at him versus Roos and Wiese, I actually think it's a different character because he's so shifty and because he's forever aggressive. He has this, no turn off, and it's coming from chest, shoulders, hips. He's one of those guys when you try to tackle him, you're not sure exactly where you're supposed to tackle him. And that could be a problem, as we'll get into later, about durability, because he's a hard athlete, not a lot of fat on him. It's wiry. And you look at all these different teams, they don't seem to be able to do a one first-time tackle on Cameron Hanekom. It doesn't seem to exist. He's always going to have a helper, and he gets that extra. Other thing I was thinking about is that his perception of angles, his body awareness, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but he seems to have very good spatial awareness. He's spotting holes routinely that they're not that obvious. And you pointed out a few which were brilliant.
I think what you're referring to, it's definitely body awareness. It's feeling where there aren't any resistance and where there are resistance, and going to the side of least resistance, if you want to call that. And these ball carriers, him, Evan Roos, they're brilliant at doing that, but also protecting the ball, moving it in small space, close quarters, moving the ball away from defenders. It's fantastic. Let's move on to the tackling. And again, I think this is one part where I think Wiese has just got them a bit, because he gets front on a bit more. That's a very early check. Now, I don't mind players checking early like this, but the next step, you've got to punch forward. Mm-hmm. So you got to check and get onto your toes, and then you got to punch forward. So what happens with Cameron? He gets stepped, and then he gets side on. But this is a position you see him in a lot with tackling. He gets quite side on, and then pulling guys back to their try line. This one, a bit of a work rate one, good leg chop, gets up, sees the opportunity, and he steals the ball for the Bulls there. Now this is, obviously that tackle is difficult to get body in front, but he's got great technique, good wrap, and he stays within that, and then that little work rate sequence that we saw. This is a good picture. This is a very good picture, and what you want to see from him, leaning into that tackle. See how different that looks? Mm-hmm. Only thing I would change is I would get him in front a bit more and not that side on, but at least he's putting shoulders on. You want to see these boys put shoulders on with the power that they have in their legs and the way that they can manhandle people. Even the size of Erge. Cameron is a strong boy, that's for sure. Upper body strength, pulling him back. There's nothing wrong with his tackle fight. He'll get involved in fights like that. And then one thing I picked up on him is he chases everything. And he has the power to have one hand grip and hold on to the player and then complete the tackle over there. Like in this instance. Just one hand, holds on. Now you can think for yourself there, Harry. how different it looks if that ruck's, if he can make the pass or he gets outside the 22. Look at where that ruck is now. That's pressure. Now there's a lot more pressure. They go even deeper into the 22 or into their own try line. Again, this one pushes through the pod, keeps chasing, and actually catches him, forces that error. Looks like nothing, but a lot of players, when the ball goes out the back like this, goes there, defenders tend to go in front of this pod, which then gives this player a lot of space. But what he does is he pushes through, forces an early pass, keeps chasing, one hand get, makes the tackle and forces that. That's one guy covering 20 meters and forcing two quick passes of one of which is a mistake. And that's a big plus in your defense if you can have one guy just being a nuisance. And you said that earlier, just being a nuisance.
Yeah, and it fits really well into current Bok theory because the applied pressure and never letting up that pressure is sort of the principle it's built on. And Cameron's a particularly good candidate for that because of his speed. I mean, there's not going to be a quicker forward on most pitches than Cameron.
Right. And then the one thing I think he has over the previous two is just his jackal ability. He gets onto the ball so quickly, and his body position is good. Where I think with Wiese, sometimes he tends to take a time to get onto the ball. He gets onto body and then onto ball. Cameron gets onto the ball immediately. And if he doesn't get it, he slows it down. Same thing. Leg chop in front of him, gets onto it. He was a bit lucky on this one. He gets onto that, onto his hands, and I think the refs could have gotten him, but he disrupts that just long enough to get the 9-2 to make a mistake. I think they didn't get that anyway. This is a great clip. This is the one that he actually gets. See how quickly he gets into the jackal position, but also he's onto that ball in a flash. Where a lot of jacklers get onto the body and then they start searching for the ball. He gets onto the body immediately. And then because he's gotten himself in such a good position, he doesn't have to put his feet back after the contact. You'll see some of the good jacklers, once they feel contact, they put their feet back to try and survive that clean. He's gotten so much of the ball that he doesn't need to do that, and then he makes that steal. And I'll play this in real time just to show you how quick he gets onto the ball here. All right, Darry, like I said, just something that he can look at, and a lot of the players we've spoken about has got this work on, I think. It's just, and it's kind of, they're a victim of their own ability to break the line and get themselves behind defense lines and get their support runners to be late. So he gets in front of this wall. Now, what I'd like to see here is, this is what I'm talking about. You want him to get a bit lower. He's not going to, you're probably not going to stay on your feet on this one. You want him to get a bit lower and ensure that he doesn't expose this ball. He gets up quite high and then gets ripped on that one. Where I think is that if he'd taken the opportunity just to, even a double hand tuck, get onto their hips, work them, make them catch you instead of dominating you, you've got an opportunity to keep that ball and not get ripped. Same thing on here. Runs into that simultaneous double hit, just a bit high, and they take the ball off him, which I think you're going to have a couple of carries in a game. You want to expose the ball as little as possible. And then just some ground skill work. So he's got an opportunity. There's no one above him. Move that ball towards your try line, towards your 9. He just stays in that position and he gives that cleaner an opportunity to get to the ball. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Little tiny tricks there. If Jasper was almost used to being the toughest guy in the field, and Evan the most powerful. I think Cameron is so used to being the quickest forward that he got a little bit lazy sometimes here and there with the technique. He's clearly the best of the three at pilfering, jackling, getting over the ball. But there's just a few things, a few what they call the dark arts that he has to learn and not be too naive. Like he's quicker than everyone still, even at test level, but he's not going to be that much quicker. So the time for him is shortened. The other thing that is obvious to me is that he does see things in contact. His eyes are open all the time. So this is someone you can really coach.
He's a fantastic rugby player.
Yeah, Cameron would win if there was an NFL combine and he was testing all the athletic skills and you had all these guys, he would win, because he's got the decathlete kind of body. He can jump, he can push, he can sprint, he's got stamina. And so it's a fantastic athlete. And the question is where to put it. And some people will argue, some coaches will say that he's actually maybe better at a 6 because he's got this almost, supernatural ability to get over the ball at a ruck. And then you combine that with these natural 8 skills. But I still see him as an 8. And I also think he's going to grow into his body more because I don't think he's going to stay at this, whatever this is, 107, 108. I think he's going to grow and put muscle on. For me, I looked at him as the best at the carry and then maybe not as great at the tackle as the carry. And the bonus of the pilfer. So it comes out to 39 out of 40 for the collision zone stuff. And then ball skills, the best. 29, he's literally like you having a back. It's like these hybrids, this Ben Earl, Makalou for France, Wallace Satiti for New Zealand. They're a new breed. Like you don't have to worry about them being a forward involved in the backline movements. On seeing the field, seeing the pitch, seeing the game unfold, best as well. 18. The way he manipulates off the back of the scrum, he was saving the Bulls from having to have red zone attack for a while because he would just be the red zone. You got Cameron in the red zone, he would score. My question, and it's my only question about Cameron Hanekom, is where to play him and how his body is going to hold up with being the top everything for the Bulls, top ruck arriver, defensive and attacking, top carrier, top number of carries, top number of tackles. It's a lot. And he seems to be going down in almost every match with a hamstring issue. I'm not saying he goes off, he fights through, but he has missed some. And I worry about that. So the durability score is what brings it down for me in the test environment, where, as you know, everything goes up about 20% on violence. So I rated him a 7 there, which brings him down below Roos. The good news is that's fixable. There's some S&C there. I think he's highly flexible. Maybe that's his problem. He should be less flexible. But he gets in positions that are really tough on a body. And so he might opt out of some of those. He might not have to be in every ruck battle and trust his fellow loose forwards.
I'm just wondering, being a forward and being that lean, if it's to your, because he's an absolute athlete, and I've heard some S&C coaches and some high performance sports professionals say that you need a bit of a buffer, with the contact. You need a bit of a buffer, not a body composition of X% body fat, or just that little bit of a buffer. Maybe it's. But most of his injuries are actually soft tissue, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, padding. You need some padding. What's fascinating is the Northampton Saints literally 2 years ago decided their players were all too lean. They were too fit. They were too shredded. And they went on this concerted thing to give everyone 2 or 3 extra kgs of padding. And so this brings up our dark horse, actually. But they've had they won the league. And then they didn't have as many off-season issues. And they had a rough start this year because people were on test duty. But now they're in the final of the Champions Cup. And every single man on that team is heavier than they used to be. So this is a very interesting turnaround, because you would think a guy like Cameron's probably really proud of his leanness, and it gives him that extra burst. But what if he could keep it like vessels. There's some guys out there that have added and they're still quick. So, maybe they can go to work there on the Bulls.
Yeah, I don't know. That'll put him into a next level, putting in some more on some more Ks and keeping that strength and speed. That'll be a nightmare to tackle.
Yeah, I mean, Pierre Spies carried a lot more weight. And if that's sort of the prototype he is following, I'm not sure he is. Cameron's a different athlete. He's actually difficult to compare to someone else. He's not, I would say he's one of the more rare athletes that has been developed. And so the question is how to use him the best. And I know for sure that a guy like Tony Brown is loving that problem. Like, give it to me. I'll put him in space. I'll put him in because he, like you said, he doesn't look for the shoulder or the contact as much. He's a guy always looking for that little seam in the defense.
Yeah, true.
So let's go to our dark horse, who's a big horse. Pride of Tygerberg High School. He's interestingly named, Duane Augustus. Augustus Trocky is his nickname, and I think his only name is Trocky. He plays instruments. He's a good time at the Joel and the party, but when he steps on the pitch, he's a proper player. And I thought something wrong about Trocky. I thought that he was just a carry guy. I didn't know the commitment he had to attending rucks and tackle. And I just looked today about his tackle percentage, dominant tackle percentage. It's off the charts. It's among the highest in the Northern Hemisphere. We saw him most recently beating Leinster, and he was one of the best players on the pitch. And he did it not just with the storming carries and an offload to Tommy Freeman, which turned into a try. By the way, he beat 3 guys in that run. We cannot show you the clip because of copyright and stuff, but then he finds a perfect offload. So he's doing what you said that these guys should do, is in the contact zone, look around. And he found Tommy Freeman, who's the guy to find one of your wings, and delivered it on time. But more than that, he's a hard worker. He's a toiler. He's a grafter. He's the guy that will definitely get his hands dirty. And so he's an interesting 8. He's almost like a throwback 8, gets stuck in there and, like you said, fixes every problem. I don't know, and this is my one issue about him, and it's on the defensive side in the box scheme, where sometimes the box coaches have even trusted a little guy like Kwacha or put a guy like Marco in there. Because it's a high premium placed on defensive repetitions and getting off the floor and not getting stuck. So Trocky's a big guy. I think he's the guy that's 117, in the morning, but maybe 119 after dinner. So, he's always going to have that kind of load you're carrying. But if I had to look at one guy as a dark horse and think of someone who sees the field, understands, is durable. I mean, you could just drive a truck into him. It doesn't seem to worry him. And carries all day long, then Trocky is an interesting candidate. Where he'd have to work on is probably not ball skills. He got great ball skills. It's about fitness and looking the part, just literally fitting into the jersey that they've assigned as their proper prototypical, because this group of ball coaches is very into numbers.
I think what comes up for me when I watch his games is secondary jobs. So if he's a primary tackler or primary carrier, he's phenomenal. When he gets into a position where he has to either clean the ruck or he's an assist tackler, it seems like there's not as much emphasis as there is when he's doing the primary job. And I think when you get to the box, that's something that's quite high. It's that secondary assist. Whoever's there needs to have an impact, needs to make a difference. And I think that's something that he can look at. I also think that he's not an out-and-out jackler, but he does get himself into positions. And I think if he misses the ball with that weight, and he's the shortest of all the candidates we spoke about, with that weight and the length not being that much of a problem, I think he should just start bullying and start counter-rucking in those positions, and he'll cause some real damage and disrupt rucks. And I think, like you said, that's going to be part of that second action secondary action fitness conditioning category, because he's a fantastic player. He can do everything that's needed of him, but can he do it effectively for 80 minutes and, you know, both sides of his job?
For Troki, we have 35 in the carry tackle. It's the tackle that lets him down, the repetitive, get off the pitch, get off the ground. I mean, 26 out of 30 for the ball skills, which is high. It's just more that he's not getting in the positions on our front support line. 17 on seeing the field, and probably could have gone a bit higher. He's a great vision guy. And then 10 out of 10 for durability. If we could give a 12, I would give him a 12. So there we have it. We basically have an incumbent that we know exactly what we get from Jasper. There's no doubt, you know, you get that, but you also get something extra, which is he's tried to be better every year. He's not resting on his laurels. So that's not a bad position to be in. You got these two young, fiery, different type of athletes. One, the quickest guy on the field, the other guy, probably the most powerful. And they're vying it out. And literally, you could toss a coin right now, but you play differently if you play with one or the other, Roos and Hanekom. And then you have a dark horse. In my mind, the ceiling for Cameron and Evan is very high. And probably for Cameron, it's the highest of all, because I don't know what he's going to look like body-wise in 3 or 4 years. You know, Kalen Doris, which is a guy that people say nowadays is the best 8 in the world, when you took all these different skills into account, he was known as a quick guy, you know, and he added power. I don't know of anyone who's powerful that adds quickness. So Cameron's got everything he needs. It's just a matter of, can he get to the next step? And one of those is staying on the pitch. I thought it's fascinating to talk through number 8s, Andre. I know that they're an interesting position because there's not one thing you can go to with number 8s. You, like everything we just went through, it's almost like it's an all-rounder in cricket, you know, and you don't want to have anyone have any shortfall, and everything has to be okay. But cheers, man. I thought that was a fantastic discussion. And by the way, we want everyone to argue with us. So, you know, argue with Andre. No, argue with both of us and tell us where we're wrong. I know that if we have Roos at a high level, we're going to get lots of heat. So we're ready for it.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. That was superb. And, you know, it's good to hear the old experience coming through, you playing 8 and talking about that, the experiences you had with the coaches. You always have an elegant way of putting it into words, so thanks for that.
Yeah, and we stole the pod from MVF for a while, so yeah, let's give it back to him now.
I think he's watching the highlights of the Bulls games, the last 3 games, so he's going to be busy for a while.
Cheers.
Our ultimate 2025 Springbok team, every Sunday with André Pretorius.